Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through an updated method for removing third-party collection accounts from your credit report using the CFPB dispute process, and some things will be adjusted for how this will function in 2026. This is going to be a practical walkthrough of the process that we've done in the past based on consumer protection law and reporting requirements that credit bureaus are required to follow. Now, before we get into the steps, I need to make a few important disclosures so that there's no confusion. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I am not a credit repair specialist, and I do not offer credit repair services. You cannot pay me to do this. I will not do that. If you email me, if you DM me, if you send me a message on Instagram, you will be ignored. Now, what I can do for you and what I am doing is sharing educational information based on my own experience and an explanation of how these systems operate when applied correctly. If you're new to the channel and you're here specifically for the collection removal process, then welcome. I really appreciate you watching this video. Drop a comment and I would like to welcome you personally to the channel, and understand that this works for a few very important reasons. This method applies specifically to third-party collection agencies that are reporting to your credit report. It does not apply to the original creditor or auto loans or installment loans or even charge-offs. This is not applying to the original lender. If you try to use this for an account that belongs to the original lender, it will not work. Those accounts follow different rules, different requirements, and different strategies. I will have another video on that coming out very soon, but do not try to apply this method to those accounts. Now, credit is not your entire financial journey, but it is often a gatekeeper to everything that comes next. As far as apartments, insurance rates, business funding, lending opportunities, a lot of this stuff is influenced by your credit report. That's why understanding how to properly review, challenge, and correct inaccurate or unverifiable information really does matter. And with that said, using this method should enable you to remove a collection from your credit report within around, I would say, 7 to even 30 days now, because it is a little bit longer. But the average that I'm still seeing to this day is around 7 days. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first step in this process is pulling your correct credit report. Now, you need a full consumer disclosure report that shows detailed information, reporting dates, and account numbers exactly as they are furnished by the bureaus. Now, I recommend doing this in two ways. Number one, annualcreditreport.com. This is the only federally authorized source for your credit report, and this site allows you to pull your Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion reports directly from the source. However, these reports do not show your credit score. Now, you can download each of these reports separately. Now, do not assume the information is going to be the same across all bureaus, because in many cases, it is not. Collection accounts often appear with different names, different account numbers sometimes. You need to pay attention to this and see how they're formatted. For example, the reported dates may not match. These differences matter because each bureau is legally responsible only for what it reports, not for what another bureau shows. As you review each report, you are looking specifically for third-party collections. You are not addressing the original creditor. I just want to make note of that again. Now, my second option for pulling your credit report when you're working on removing collections is Rising. Rising offers a $1 trial, and I'll link it in the description if you want to check that out. Now, what I like about Rising for this specific method is that it gives you a tri-merged credit report. A tri-merged credit report combines Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion data into one single, easy-to-read document, so you're not jumping back and forth between 3 different reports and trying to piece things together. And that matters a lot when you're disputing collections, because it allows you to review how the same account is being reported across all 3 bureaus at the same time. Rising also provides real-time dispute updates, so you're notified as soon as a collection account is updated or removed, instead of having to wait and manually check each bureau. That makes it much easier to track progress as well as review your updates on each credit score when this information is removed. All right, so if you're following along with me, you already have your report. You either got it from annualcreditreport.com or you have your report from rising.com. It doesn't matter which one, but make sure that you have one of them. Now, I'm going to give you an example from an old report and exactly what you need to look for. Now, as you can see, this is my report. This is a collection that I had that was reporting. As you review through each report, you are looking specifically for third-party collection accounts, and notice on this account, you can see it says debt buyer account, and the code on the account simply has the letter C. That would normally signify a collection. Now, this may look different for TransUnion and it might look different for Experian, but once again, you'll look for something similar. And when you're looking for that, just remember you'll identify these accounts when they've been placed or sold to a collection agency. And for each collection account, you need to write down the following information. You will need the name as it appears on the credit report, and you want to put the name exactly as it appears. So for this one that we're looking at, it says Spring Oaks Capital, LLC. It's very clear cut, it's very straightforward. You need to list it exactly as it appears. You also want to enter the account number as it appears, including whatever you see that is masked, okay? So for example, where you see the asterisks right here on the screen, like it shows 1*8806, that's exactly what you would put. That is the full account number. I get asked that question all the time. That is the full account number. You don't need to find out what those numbers are. If they have X's by them, if it's several X's, write it down exactly as it appears on the report. You'll also add the date the account was opened. Here it is, September 29th, 2022. You need to make sure that you have that information. You also want to have the date it was last reported, and you also want to have the highest balance listed. Now, this is very important. If the same collection appears on all three credit reports, but the account name, account number is different on each one, you will need to treat these separately, which means you'll have to dispute them separately, not together. All right, so if the account number and name is different on Experian, it's different on Equifax, it's different on TransUnion, then you will need to do this method 3 separate times. However, if the information is the exact same, you can actually do one dispute, or rather one affidavit that we're going to produce, and then you could send that to all three bureaus, and you only have to do it once. This is not optional. This is not something that you want to shortcut. So if you see that the account number is the same for all three bureaus, but the name is slightly different, like maybe it says Spring Oaks Cap, just CAP, but not capital LLC, and then you put the name with the capital LLC and it doesn't come off of, let's say, TransUnion. That is the reason why. There's a lot of reasons why this will not work if you don't do it exactly as it appears on your credit report. So please keep that in mind. Accuracy is critical in this process, and once you've gathered all this information and it's organized for each bureau, you are ready to move on to the next step, which will be creating an affidavit on the FTC website, and that's what we're going to do next. Now, before we go over to the FTC site, I want to pause here for one moment, because the goal of these updated videos is to train you to not copy scripts or follow instructions blindly. The goal is to help you understand where the authority actually comes from, so you're not dependent on YouTube or templates or personalities to try and solve problems that are rooted in law. Your right to dispute inaccurate or unverifiable information does not come from a website, it doesn't come from a complaint portal, and it doesn't come from a specific agency. It comes from federal law, specifically the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which governs how consumer information can be collected, reported, and maintained, and that distinction matters because systems change, platforms get redesigned, and response times will eventually fluctuate. Now, you need to understand that when it comes to collections, the underlying obligation does not disappear just because a process becomes slower or a portal looks different. The law still requires that consumer reporting be accurate and verifiable. Now, at its core, the Fair Credit Reporting Act is built on a simple principle. If information is being reported about you, it must be accurate, or at least as accurate as humanly possible. And if its accuracy is challenged, it must be reasonably investigated. And if the reporting party cannot support the information with proper verification, it cannot continue to be reported as fact. Now, a lot of people overcomplicate this, and I understand it's not like you guys want to be doing this. You don't care about being a credit repair specialist. I don't either. But I understand just enough that I can interpret what the law is, so I understand exactly what I'm doing. So your responsibility as a consumer is to identify what is inaccurate, incomplete, inconsistent, and you're going to provide a reasonable basis for why you believe that information should be investigated. Now, when it comes to third-party collections, and there's a reason why I put so much emphasis on third-party collections, These people have to actually prove that you actually owe them something. Now, I've done this in several videos. I've broken this down so many times. If you guys want to look at past videos, then you can. But the FCRA will tell you exactly what you can and you can't do, and why a lot of the stuff that happens with credit reporting, a lot of it ends up being illegal. And a lot of what's going on is fraudulent activity. Again, it's defined by the law, but if you don't understand it, then it's not going to make sense unless you look this stuff up. All right. Now, with that said, I will be leaving a link in the description with the FCRA. If you want to check it out, then you can. But let's move on to the next step. So currently we are on IdentityTheft.gov. This is the first place that you're going to go to create an affidavit. You will start by clicking on Report Identity Theft. You will then click on Yes. You will always select credit card account. It does not matter if this was a collection for a utility or a credit card or a different account. Always select credit card. Do not choose any other option. This will be the option that you select. Then you'll click on to open credit card account, and then you'll click on continue, and then you will also hit continue again. That will bring us to step number 1, and that's going to be what company or bank issued the credit card. Once again, it does not matter if it's a credit card. Use this same option. And we are just going to paste in our information. That's the easiest way that you can do this. You will then pick the date that you first noticed the problem. The date will always be whatever month and year that you're currently in. So if we're in January of 2026, that's when you notice the problem. Now, do you know when the account was opened? Well, we know that it was September of 2022. That's what we got from the report. And the amount, I believe, was $1,160. If it's not exact, then I'm sorry. I'm just doing this off of memory. And then it was, I believe, asterisk, but we can't use an asterisk, so you can use an X. If it appears on your credit report as an asterisk, it's okay for you to use an X. And I believe it was 8806. That was the last 4 of the account. Now I'm going to click add, and you will see the account right here. Now, if you need to add more than one account that's currently on your credit report, you would then add the account name here, same thing that we did exactly, the account number, and then you would click on add another account. And you would keep doing this until you hit the limit. And if you do have more than, let's say, whatever the limit is, I think it was like either 3 to 5. If you hit that limit, then you can go ahead and create another one of these and submit a separate report. All right, moving on, we're going to go down and hit continue. Now, this is where you're going to enter your first name, your last name, your phone number, your email address, your date of birth, your current mailing address. It should match the mailing address on your driver's license because you will need to submit your identification documents. All right. How long have you lived there? And then these 2 options, they will stay no. Just keep the default no. The other thing that I want to mention that I've seen people have problems with, they have an issue when they submit this several times. If you submit multiple of these, you may run into an issue where you cannot receive a verification code. The options to fix this is to clear the cache and history in your web browser. Try to connect to a different internet. You can also try to use a different web browser altogether. Try to use Google Chrome, or try to use Safari, or try to use Firefox, like use something different. And if all else fails, use a different device. I believe it has something to do with the IP address using the same web browser so many times. So worst case, if you're on your laptop, try it on your phone. And then if, all else fails, use a different phone number. If you don't have a different phone number, that's fine. Wait like 3 days or so, come back, you will be able to do it again. Now for suspect information, you're going to select no, not at this time, and then you're going to click on continue. Now we are on step number 4, additional information. Have you reviewed a copy of your credit report? Yes, you have. Were there any fraudulent accounts in your report? Yes, there was. Was any personal information wrong in your report? You could just put none, not at this time. This is where you would do inquiries, but we're not doing that. That's a separate video. And have you requested a fraud alert? Everything else is just going to be no. No, not yet. No, not yet. No, and no. And then you're going to click on continue. All right. And then moving into step number 5, your personal statement. Now, this is where you just talk about what happened. And for this one, just use your own verbiage, but I just did something very simple. I reviewed a copy of my credit report. I noticed an account that I don't recognize. Please remove this from my credit report as soon as possible. Very short, very simple. That is going to be it. And if you want, you can actually copy this right now. because you're going to need this later on when you actually submit this through the CFPB. Now, before you submit anything, you will have the opportunity to actually review this document. Now, here's what I recommend. You want to make sure that all the information matches. Your name needs to match what's on your driver's license. Your address needs to match. I would use your primary phone number, and then I would use your primary email address. You want to use that information. If it's not that, then I highly recommend that you go ahead and you update that now. Now, you want to make sure that the company or organization will be the collection. You want to make sure the account number is exactly as you see it on your credit report, and then that the date that you see matches what's on your credit report. And then the date of discovery should be whatever month and year you are currently in, with the actual amount that's the highest balance. All right. As long as all that information is there, you have done this correctly. Now, when you get to this section, you want to submit this without creating an account. So say no thanks, submit without an account, and then again, submit without an account, and then hit continue. Now, once you have done this, you should get the option to download this report. You will download this as a PDF file. Now, once you've downloaded that, you can save it to your desktop. And now we're going to move on to the CFPB. All right, so currently we are on the CFPB website. What you'll want to do is scroll down and look for start a new complaint. Now, if you've done this in the past, then you should already have an account with them. If you do not, fill out this information and create an account. And again, I would create it with the same email that you're using for your dispute. Now, once you've done this, in the top right-hand corner, you should see the submit a complaint. It'll be a blue button. That should take you to this screen to step 1 of submitting a complaint. Now, you'll want to go to credit reporting. Then you'll want to scroll down for the type of credit reporting product, and it's going to, of course, be credit report, and then we'll move on to the next step. And then for step number 2, you're going to click on incorrect information on your credit report, and then which one of these best would describe your problem. Information belongs to someone else. Have you tried to fix this with the company? Yes. Did you request information from the company? Yes. This section is optional. You don't have to fill it out. Did the company provide this information? No. And then click on next. Okay, now we're on step number 3. Now you're just putting what happened. Very simple, guys. Just copy and paste what we already put in our personal statement. Really easy. I mean, if you want to add the account information here, just to reiterate, then you can add like, for my example, Spring Oaks LLC, and then, put the account number if you want to add that, but it kind of doesn't matter. And then for the resolution, it's kind of the exact same, right? Because you already put it in the personal statement. You're asking that the account be removed as soon as possible. So now that you've done this, the next thing that you want to do is attach your documents. Now, this is very important. You need to attach your driver's license, okay? It needs to be an updated driver's license. Your name should match the address that you have everywhere. It's on your credit report. That should all match. Please make sure it does. If not, you may have issues. The other thing that you'll need is a copy of your social. You want to take a picture of it, and you can crop it, and then you can send it to your computer. Add that as a document here. You will also need some type of proof of residency. That could be a utility bill. It could be a bank statement. It could be car insurance, voter registration card. It could be your internet bill. It could be your phone bill. You need some proof of residency, okay? And then the last thing that you'll want to add is a screenshot of the actual account. You need to show them the actual account that you're disputing on your credit report, and it should be the one that matches the bureau. Now, I do want to tell you one thing here, please keep this in mind. If the information is different, then I would submit this separately. So I would submit one for Experian, I would submit one for Equifax, and then I would submit one separately for TransUnion so that you can show the account that's actually with that corresponding bureau. Now, if the information is the same, again, if the name is the same, if the account number is the same, if everything is the exact same, it doesn't matter which one you put. Or you could take your Rising report and put the tri-merged one. All right. But you just want to make sure that you're actually showing the one that corresponds with the bureau that you're trying to dispute. That is very important, because I see a lot of times that people do this. They end up using the wrong screenshot and they wonder why it doesn't get removed. Okay, now we're finally going to enter the company that we're complaining about. So again, if all the information matches, you can just type in Experian. That's going to come right up. This one in all caps is perfectly fine. You'll go ahead and check everything here. your social, your name as it appears on your report, your date of birth. You want to enter all that information right here, okay? So just enter all this information and then the name as it appears on the report. Do you want to complain about another company? Once again, if all the information matches, you can actually submit one complaint and it will go to all 3 bureaus. If the information is different, then you may have separate affidavits and you may have to submit this for each bureau separately. But again, in a best case scenario, everything matches. Name, account number is the same for all bureaus. All right, let's say yes. And then we'll enter, let's do TransUnion next. All right, TransUnion comes up. Have you already tried to fix this? Yes. Did you request information from the company? Yes. Did the company provide this information? No. And then same exact thing, guys, just repeat the same exact steps and you want to enter your name exactly as it appears on your report. Now we can only put up to 3 companies, so that works out in this situation. Yes, we want to complain about our final company, which will be Equifax. All right, so we have Equifax here. Have you already tried to fix this? Yes. Did you request information? Yes, no. And then check everything here, all these options, and then we'll enter it in once more. And then we'll enter, date of birth, name as it appears on the report. Sometimes the name will appear differently on each report, so keep that in mind. You should probably just put the name that's actually on your driver's license. That's going to be like the easiest way to make sure that it's accurate. Now we have all 3 disputes for all 3 bureaus. Perfect. We will now click on next. All right, and this is probably going to be the last section because after I submit this, it's just going to be a review, and then if you're going to submit the complaint, I don't need to do this, so I will not be moving on to that next step. But make sure that in step 5, you always select myself. If you select someone else, like if you're doing this on behalf of someone, which I don't recommend, you need to let people do this for themselves, then they will throw this out as frivolous. You cannot try to submit this on someone's behalf. It needs to be the actual individual submitting this, okay? So you'll select that, then you'll review the information, and then you'll be able to submit this. Make sure when you go back to the CFPB, you see all 3 complaints have been submitted for each bureau. And then once again, this method still works. You'll probably have to wait anywhere between 7 to even up to 30 days to actually see that the accounts have been deleted. And this should take care of your collections if you submitted this properly and you actually made sure that all the information matched. There wasn't anything that was, any discrepancy. It just has become a little bit more meticulous when you submit the information. Everything has to match. All right, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Now, as you approach the end of this process, it is important to step back and understand what actually just happened. When an account cannot be properly verified or supported by adequate records, it can legally be removed from your credit report, and that's what happens with third-party collections. Now, this does not erase legitimate debts that you still owe, all right? It prevents creditors from maybe reporting this, but if you are sued by a collection company, I have an entire video that's going to actually address that. I'm going to link that video right here. I want to also state that this does not replace having good financial behavior moving forward. What it does ensure is that your credit report reflects good information. However, if you still have bad credit habits that led to this is not a permanent fix. You will end up eventually having the same results. And if this method does not work in the future, you'll still have to follow another process based on the FCRA in order to get that collection account removed. However, the most important thing is that you actually practice good financial habits. This will help with a credit report reporting accurate information, but it does not replace bad financial habits. You need to understand that. That's a mentality that has to change. Once your disputes are resolved, your next step should be maintaining sustainability. This means continuing to pay current accounts on time, keeping your balances within reasonable limits, and avoiding unnecessary credit applications. Stability will allow the improvements that you made to actually translate into better opportunities. And if collections were removed, you may see gradual improvements in your credit profile over the following weeks or months. Now, these changes are not always immediate. And what I mean by that is even if you remove negative information from your credit report. If you have no positive account history, then your credit score may not change that much. If some collections remain on your report, that does not mean that you wasted your time. You can go ahead and submit an investigation for that account, and then you can ask them from a method of verification. That's the exact same other way that people get collections removed. This method is just more straightforward, it's faster, but you can always just submit my round 1 and round 2 charge-off removal process. It works the exact same way, just takes a little bit more steps. But again, improving your income, managing your expenses, building a savings, and learning how to deploy capital strategically, that all matters. Credit simply determines how easily you can access certain tools along the way. And throughout this entire process, the most valuable skill that you developed was attention to detail. And that skill will apply far beyond credit disputes. It applies to contracts, lending terms, business agreements, and financial decisions of all kinds. Now, for those of you who took the time to watch the entire walkthrough, I appreciate your patience and your attention. This information is most effective when it's understood and not rushed through. So use this knowledge responsibly, stay forward, keep focused on your long-term progress rather than short-term wins. And thank you guys for watching. You have a wonderful day.